why the Rams could make some noise in the playoffs this season. We've got Week 12 winners and losers, and why a certain rookie that we thought was going to play a lot this season hasn't. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor, join the party, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like button, and let us know. What do you think the Rams' final record of the regular season will be? Will they make the playoffs? Can they make noise in the playoffs? My name is Doug McCain. My friends call me D-Mac. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade. SI, Dodgers Nation, 24/7 sports. Now the Rams for Locked On. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre, half, and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's in his 8th season covering your Los Angeles Rams. The People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's show, we've got winners and losers from Week 12, horns up, horns down. And who should you be rooting against for the Rams to make the playoffs? We got the layout, how the Rams can make the playoffs. The push is on. But first, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Now, Travis, this team has really turned things around, right? They were at 3-6. It looked like we were talking about a top 5 pick. Who should they draft? Should they go quarterback? Should they go left tackle? Should they go receiver? Now the playoff chances continue to go up. Based on New York Times playoff model, their simulation, now they're up to 42% after the Bears beat the Vikings. That is up 26% from last week. Yeah. It's looking more and more likely that the Rams could sneak into the playoffs.
It's up to them. I guess that's really all you could ask for, right? So by the time they play on Sunday, we'll be in December, and the Rams are in control of their own playoff destiny in the month of December. Who could have thought that was going to be the truth at the beginning of the season, or even just a couple of weeks ago? That, I want to go back to what this felt like when they lost to Pittsburgh, what this felt like when they lost to the Green Bay Packers. It just did not feel like a team that had any sort of heartbeat as far as a playoff goes. And give all the credit in the world to Sean McVay, give all the credit in the world to Raheem Morris and his and their entire coaching staff for keeping these guys in it. You hear all these cliches of, it's not over till it's over. And, you're going to continue to fight until you have absolutely no choice. And usually I roll my eyes at that stuff. But in this case, it's incredibly true. They have their own future in the palm of their hand. Beat Cleveland, and the path is not hard to find. Beat Washington, beat New Orleans, beat the New York Giants, and you go to the playoffs. You don't have to worry about Baltimore. You don't have to worry about San Francisco. Take care of your business against the teams that you have a good chance to take care of your business against, and you're in it. It's incredibly exciting. It's incredibly unexpected, but very, very exciting.
Yeah, and I think that one thing you hope this team has learned is don't shoot yourself in the foot, right? Costly interceptions, costly penalties, costly turnovers. Get a little luck from the Zebras out there. Don't get those bad calls that we saw taking a touchdown away from Tutu Atwell against the Bengals. You lose that hobbled Bengals team earlier in the season. So, yeah, you need some bounces to go your way. You need some luck to go your way. Need to stay healthy. Need to avoid costly interceptions. You need to play 4 quarters of football. But if you do beat the Browns, like you said, and right now you could be going against a third-string quarterback without Myles Garrett. If they win that game, they're now up to 52%. That's how their chances increase. And let's say they go 9-8 the rest of the way. ESPN, they predict them to go 4-2 the rest of the way. You beat the Browns, go up to 52%. You lose to the Ravens, goes down to 45%. You beat the Commanders, goes up to 56%. Beat the Saints, 71%. Beat the Giants, 85%. And then you lose to the 49ers, 81%. So you're looking at a really, really good chance of making the playoffs. And I think one game that I think is tricky, we've talked about the second half of the season, these winnable games, the Commanders, the Giants, teams like that. The Commanders game, I think, is a little trickier than a lot of people realize because, look, they're coming off a bye week, and they're going to be looking fresh. They're a team that can score some points. There's no gimme games in the NFL, especially with this Rams team with the margins in. So it's tough to count these games at WWW. And then the Ravens are going to be a very difficult team too, coming off a bye as well. Giants, the weather's going to be cold. We talked about this one yesterday. So at the end of the day, it's fun to count these games. It's fun to predict these records, but you have to go out there and win these football games. And I'm taking it game to game.
I'm with you. And this is what makes, at the risk of sounding like an NFL paid spokesperson, this is what makes this league so much fun. You just really never know, right? You think a team is dead in the water and they're not. You think a team has kind of figured it out and they just implode. You just never know what this league is going to give you. And that's what makes it so much fun. There's not a lot of games. And I'll go back to this, D-Mac. This is why a game in week 6 or a game in week 7 can be such a big deal. If the Rams do lose to the Commanders or to the Giants or to the Saints or to any of these teams that we're hoping that they can beat, you're going to look back at that Steelers game and say, I can't believe they lost that game. That's the difference between them being into the playoffs and not. Because as bad as they were against the Packers, they didn't have a chance to win that game. With Brett Rippon, they were never going to win that game. So it's hard to look back at that one and say, oh, we should have had it. Now you can look back and say, oh, you should have had a backup quarterback on your roster, knowing that Matthew Stafford has been injury prone the way that he's been the last season or so. So maybe that's a little bit of hindsight. But that Steelers game just starts to loom larger and larger and larger. And you just never know which of those games is going to be the one that gets you in or keeps you out. And losing that gross, ugly, nasty Steelers game, if you stub your toe anywhere, because look, they're 5-6. This is not a team that's just going to rip off a bunch of wins in a row, probably. You just have one, like you said, one bad call, one bad penalty, one drop, one turnover, whatever it may be, and you're out where you should be in, and that's because you couldn't beat the Steelers, who are terrible.
Absolutely. I think if you look back and they don't make the postseason, you're going to really, really lose sleep over that loss. There's no doubt about it. But I do think you just look at this team, what they've been able to accomplish. I think two things can be true. I think that one, this coaching staff, Sean McVay, Morse, all these guys have absolutely maximized this talent. You've seen these young guys continue to emerge. I think that's true. I also think that this is the NFC minus, right? This is a mid-conference right now. And I think when you look at the lack of talent up and down this conference, you have the ability to make the postseason. I think you got to take advantage of that. Now, basically the key right here is you can't go 500. If you go 500 the rest of the way, you finish at 8-9, you're not making the playoffs. You have to beat teams that may have winning records, but they're playing with their backups, teams like the Browns, teams like the Saints, and you have to beat the teams with the losing records, the Commanders, the Giants. If you lose the 49ers, if you lose to the Ravens, you can live with that, but you have to find a way to win these winnable games, and then you can make the playoffs. Now, I don't know about you, Travis. For me, when I'm doing fantasy football, I'm less about rooting for my players. I'm more about rooting against who I'm going against. I'd rather be a hater. You know what I'm saying? It's more fun to hate, right?
I wake up in the morning looking for things to dislike. It's the thing it's what gets me out of bed in the morning. It's terrific. That winning is cool and being happy about your team is fine, but watching somebody else's team lose is just glorious. I love it.
It's like that meme. I wake up extra early just to have more time to hate, right? So, no, I'm just playing here. But obviously, who you got to hate on, of course, teams root against, New Orleans Saints. Now, one thing to point out there is one of those teams in the NFC South, they are going to get the 4th seed because they will win the division. We're talking about the Saints. We're talking about the Falcons. We're talking about the Buccaneers, right? So one of those teams. And then you got the New York Giants, of course. You got the Washington Commanders, the Chicago Bears, Packers, Cowboys, Seahawks as well. And basically, bottom line, like you pointed out yesterday, the Cowboys beat the Seahawks in Jerry's World. Chiefs beat the Rangers. And then the Rams will officially emerge as the 7th seed in the NFC, 6-6 with 5 games to play.
Look, there's if you want to get really froggy, you could look at it, the Minnesota Vikings too, that all of a sudden they got quarterback problems all over the place. This was a team that got off to a really bad start. I think we kind of wrote them in like, okay, they're going to get a spot. Well, maybe not. It's like the 6th and 7th spots have kind of opened up. So there may be a little bit more runway in there. We'll see what happens. You got Green Bay and Minnesota going down the stretch looking for they're going to play each other. And then, of course, you've got the Rams that they only have one division game left, and it's against the team they can't beat. But they haven't beat anybody outside of their own division other than the Indianapolis Colts. They're 1-5 against the rest of the league, and they're playing the rest of the league the rest of the way. It's an interesting mix. And You just hope it doesn't come down to some weird afternoon or morning, I guess, out here on the West Coast in New York, where a Giants team that's playing Tommy DeVito, that has nothing going for it, goes out there and just kind of lets it all hang out and can beat a Rams team that needs it desperately. It just feels like that's where we're headed, that Giant Ram game could be a de facto playoff game for the Rams. Win it and get in, and lose it, and now you need a miracle against the Niners.
I agree. And then that's where you just kind of look at the geography of it, going all the way to the East Coast, and that really is the biggest factor in that game. But I will say, this Rams team, one thing that they've showed this season is that they can compete with the elite teams, even if it's for a half. Yeah. They have been competitive against the Eagles, against the 49ers, against the Bengals. They had that game, although it was against a hobbled Joe Burrow. No one's going to want to play this Rams team. Outside of the Eagles and the 49ers in the NFC, no one would want to play a Rams team that has Super Bowl experience, Super Bowl winning medal, and Moxie and the Sean McVay. They're going to want to go in there basically playing with house money. And if you get a hot Matthew Stafford, you get an Aaron Donald that disrupts the game. Look, I'm not ruling out the Rams to make some noise. That's all I'm saying.
That's one of the things that I think is most interesting about this. I don't think even the most enthusiastic / optimistic Rams fan is thinking, hey, we got a chance to go win the Super Bowl. That just feels like something that's not in the cards. But a team that literally has nothing to lose in a wild card round, and you're going up there and you're saying, we already had a great season. Getting into the playoffs for the Rams is a great season. There's no two ways about that. Now all of a sudden, you're playing a team, I don't know, are you playing the 49ers? Are you playing I guess it wouldn't be the Cowboys because they're going to be a wild card team as well. But are you playing the Detroit Lions in Detroit? I mean, can they beat the Lions? Sure they can, especially when there's absolutely nothing to lose. And Jared Goff starts getting, these things going again. Sure, it could happen. Now, are they beating Philadelphia? Are they beating Dallas? Are they beating San Francisco? Probably not in the second round. But can they get through that opener if they get the right draw? Sure they can.
So that's going to be our Super Bowl, Lions-Rams. That's going to be amazing. Epic. But coming over next time, though, we got winners and losers, horns up, horns down, and we have the answer to why a certain rookie hasn't got as many opportunities as we hope this season. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
All right, so we're getting to that point of the football season where you don't want to get off the couch. You don't want to leave your house. You don't want to miss a second of it. This is where DoorDash comes in, right? DoorDash can take care of all of the things you need outside the house without having to go outside of the house. You can order your pizza, your wings, your soda, your burgers, even if you just forgot ketchup and buns and, I don't know, tomatoes. DoorDash can get it all delivered to your front door without missing the game. All your favorite restaurants are there. All your favorite stores are there. From retail to grocery, they're all in the app, so you can shop everything you need to get game day ready. You got a favorite spot in town? You got a wing spot like I do, like Santora's, and you want those wings specifically? DoorDash can hook you up, and you can get up to 50% off, up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more with your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter the code LOCKED23. That's LOCKED, the number 23, LOCKED23. Again, that's 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download that DoorDash app and use the code LOCKED23. Subject to change, terms apply. Enjoy the games and get yourself fed. Also, while you're doing that, why don't you get out your phone and get that PrizePicks app going, right? It is the most fun I've had playing daily fantasy sports in forever, right? And it gets more fun. Now that we got all these sports going at the same time, you can kind of cross the streams, right? Here's how you do it. You select 2 or more players, you pick more or less for their projected stats, and you place your entry. And right now, because basketball's here, you can pick a combo projection across football and basketball from a specials league, right? I've been doing a ton of football, a couple of football picks, but now you can do football and basketball, a league created specifically for combo projections that says, I don't know, Travis Kelce at 10.5 combo, 3-pointers made with LeBron James and receptions. Come on, man. Tell me you're not going to have fun with that. And you can win your money up to 25 times your money. PrizePicks even offers a reboot policy. So if one of your guys stays in play, even if your player gets injured for basketball and football games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and doesn't return for the second half, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only DFS platform with an injury insurance policy. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match of up to $100. One more time, PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNFL. That code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match of up to $100.
And we are off running here on Locked On Rams. They are making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And a special shout out to our everyday listeners out there. We appreciate you watching every episode, listening to every episode. And you can be an everyday listener too. Membership is 100% free, and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. Now, Travis, here in our second segment, got some winners and losers from week 12. Horns up, horns down, kind of focus on some guys we didn't talk about yesterday, do some quick hitter ones on ones we did. But we're going to start horns up. Jordan Fuller really had a career game. Man, 90.5 PFF grade was the highest of his career. And early in the game, you saw Kyler Murray. They were trying to push the ball downfield. They were testing that Rams secondary. Fuller and this Rams secondary, they were up to the challenge. He finished with 4 pass breakups, 3 tackles, almost had that interception on that pass that was intended for Hollywood Brown. He was fantastic.
Yeah, it's funny because watching the game on Sunday afternoon, I said to Kirk Morrison, who I do the pre-half and post with, when I'm like, man, we've heard Jordan Fuller's name a lot today, haven't we? And he said, I was just thinking the same thing. And I think it's because we hadn't heard his name very much this season, that this was one of those, oh, yeah, Jordan Fuller. We forgot about him. And you're right, D-Mac. He was really good. It felt like he was involved in a bunch of plays. He was near the ball a lot. And again, and I'm not trying to throw cold water on him or anyone else. Let's do it again. Right? Let's do it again against somebody that's not Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals, because that is when you go out at night and maybe you have a little too much fun, right? And you're just, and it's like the next day you're like, oh man, I'm not feeling so good. And we've all got that meal, right? For me, it's a cheeseburger, fries, and a Coke the size of a paint bucket. And it just kind of makes you feel a little bit better. That's the Cardinals for the Rams. That is that ultimate get-right meal. Now you got to go out and do it against the Browns. Can Jordan Fuller look like that all over again? Can he be that big Coke the day after a hard night? Let's find out.
Absolutely. I'm a big Eat My Feelings guy at McDonald's. Not a sponsor of the show, but yeah, I'm a big Eat My Feelings guy, especially after one of my teams loses. It's like my slump buster for sure. The next day, everything's right in the world again.
Absolutely. 2 McDoubles, a large fries, and the biggest Coke they have. And there's very few things in the world that aren't better after that.
I'm loving it. But yeah, so next one though, horns up. And look, like I'm saying, I would give credit when it's due, right? Criticize or critique when it's due. Derion Kendrick. I think at this point, I'm not ready to fill out my Derion Kendrick apology form, kind of the boxes. Have you seen that meme of the boxes? Twitter convinced me he was terrible and this and that. Look, I'm not ready to fill it out quite yet, but got to give him a ton of credit for how he's returned his season around. Essentially benched. They were working him out of the rotation, and he was terrific for the second consecutive week. He had an 85.2 coverage grade, allowed just 2 receptions for a total of 9 yards, 85.2 PFF grade. He's been really solid, and he's one of those guys who we talked about earlier in the year. Lets you talk about him usually means that's the better he's playing.
Isn't this what you want from your guys? Isn't this what you want from any, like, never mind an athlete or an NFL player, but just a person on, just get a little better. Just improve. When things are not going your way, dig in and fix it. Dig in and do better. Dig in and kind of recommit to what it is that you're supposed to be doing in the first place. And that's what Derion Kendrick's done. He, like we said, I thought he was done. When they came out of their bye and they had the game against the Seahawks and they announced him as a starter, I'm like, all right. I mean, I guess one last chance before you finally decide, all right, we're done with this guy. And he was good. And then he was good again against the Cardinals. I'm excited to see what he looks like against Cleveland, because you're right, D-Mac. This was a guy that I think we were both very down on, that has turned his season around and has now become an important part of what they're doing in the secondary.
Absolutely. And a couple more horns up, then we'll get the horns down next segment. Tyler Higbee, talked about him yesterday, but 5 catches, 29 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's been dealing with injuries all season. I think it was great to see him really get in the mix and really give Matthew Stafford another option to work with moving forward.
Not a moment too soon either, right? I mean, this was, we were talking about like what's going on, and more importantly, who are his backups that can't get this guy off the field? That was the thing that was so surprising to me. It's not just that Tyler Higbee wasn't a part of the offense. It's that no one else was able to step up and fill that void, that Bryson Hopkins and Davis Allen and Hunter Long, like, dude, what are you guys doing in practice that you can't push him off of that spot? And obviously the answer is nothing. but at least Higbee gave you something. He gave you a lot of something. He gave you a pair of touchdowns, and I don't know if that kind of unlocks him moving forward. I doubt it. I think, again, it's an Arizona thing. It's a matchup thing. There's a lot of positives that you can take from that, but at least the Rams are off that list of one of 3 teams that hadn't had a touchdown from a tight end, and they got 2 from Higbee, and he looked good. I don't want to say he looked great because it wasn't like he was running and hurdling over guys, but it was good enough to get into the end zone a couple of times.
Yeah, and Davis Allen, he did make 1 catch for 6 yards, but you're right. I mean, they have stuck with Higbee, and hopefully he's just getting a little healthier, and just that confidence really helps him moving forward. Matthew Stafford, we talked about yesterday, still have to get him a horns up, 25 for 33, 229 yards, 4 touchdowns, an interception, but still, those are his best games stats-wise of the year. Kyren Williams, he was fantastic. Really gets my game ball yesterday. 16 carries, 143 yards, 8.9 yards per carry, 6 catches, and also he caught all 6. We saw earlier in the year some of those missed catches turning into interceptions, some of those drops hurting the team. But 204 total yards, forced 3 missed tackles at 84.3 at PFF grade. The ankle's feeling fine. Kyren Williams has definitely been a bright spot for this team this year.
I'm not going to compare him to Todd Gurley because that's blasphemous. But that looked a lot like Todd Gurley. it really did. He's got to do it for a couple of seasons in a row to be considered that good of a player. I mean, Gurley was one of the greats of his time. But for a day, he looked like a two-way back. He picked up his blocking assignments. He caught the ball. He scored. He ran the ball. He ran tough. He ran fast. He ran athletic. He looked fantastic. Do it again. Show me again. He's played in 5 games this season, 6 games this season. He's gone over 100 yards in 3 of them, 2 of them against Arizona. Show me again. Show me against Cleveland, and I will be a true believer.
Yeah, he's been a breath of fresh air. There's just something about him being the glue guy for this offense. His ability, like I said, forced 3 missed tackles. Offensive line played great. But Todd Gurley, that's an offensive player of the year. That was one of the elite players of the game. That's like comparing McDonald's to McDowell's, right? Okay, we're not doing that at this point. But love me some
Kyren Williams does not have sesame seeds on his buns.
Exactly. No, he's not worried about the McDonald's people coming up and checking for everything every 2 minutes, right? Got the old golden arches. Got the golden arch. But yeah, so coming up in our next segment, though, we got horns down. Got some horns down, not too many, but one that was very, very interesting. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
All right, when you're hiring for your small business, you want to have as many top-tier candidates as possible to interview, right? That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. We were just talking about Kyren Williams a second ago, right? And just all of a sudden, the right person in the right spot, and it kind of unlocks everybody. The same can be true for your business. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have time or resources to hire. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, though, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. And they even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Now, let's do some horns down, and we're going to start Cooper Kupp. Obviously, we talked about him, but 3 catches, 18 yards, a 48.2 PFF grade. I think next couple weeks, we're really going to see, can he get out of this slump? Is it something physical? Is it going to hold back the offense? I think the most important thing for Cooper Kupp is if he's not at his best, he's not close to 100%, that you don't force to target him and you mix things around. We saw Tutu Atwell was their most productive receiver. Not a big day for Puka Nacua, but I think that's the biggest thing. Just not trying to force feed the ball if he's not 100%.
I'll give you a horns up and a horns down on Cooper Kupp. The horns down is what you were just talking about, D-Mac. Here are his catch totals in the last 5 games. 3, 1, 2, 4, 2. 3, 1, 2, 4, 2 in the last 5 games for Cooper Kupp, who not that long ago was one of the best wide receivers in football. And he's been honestly a complete non-factor over the last month or so. That's the horns down. The horns up is because he isn't killing it the way that he did in those first couple of games when he came back, because it doesn't look like the player that he was in previous seasons, the ball's got to go other places. Matthew Stafford can't rely on him to the degree that he has in the past, which means Puka's more involved, which means Tyler Higbee caught a few balls, which means Kyren Williams is catching it, which means Tutu Atwell is getting some looks along the way. And the Rams offense seems to have found a little bit of a rhythm that isn't always there when Cooper Kupp is kind of dominating the ball. Now, you want to find a way to have both of those things be true at the same time. You want Kupp to catch a lot of balls and have the ball spread around the rest of the offense. But if there is a hidden silver lining to Cooper Kupp struggling the way he is, it's that everybody else is getting involved because Kupp just doesn't look like himself.
Absolutely, and they're still winning games too. So the hope is that this team can get even better, and that they haven't reached their peak with this second half surge that they're on. Then you got Ernest Jones. Wasn't your standard Ernest Jones game where you're seeing a ton of tackles. He had a 41.8 tackling grade. He missed one tackle, had one solo tackle. So it wasn't a big night for Ernest Jones. Jonah Williams, he had one tackle and 27 snaps. He has been sneaky good all season long. Wasn't a big game for him, but really the standout was Tre Tomlinson. So Tre Tomlinson, he came in garbage time. He allowed 4 catches for 59 yards on 5 targets, gave that touchdown, was also called for that penalty on illegal contact, which took away an interception. And we've been asking about Tre Tomlinson, especially when Derion Kendrick was struggling. Now I think we know why, that he isn't ready to be your every down corner at this level. Still has a lot to learn, still very raw.
There are a couple of positions where you can be risky. There are a couple of spots where you can kind of say, all right, I'm not going to necessarily follow the rules right here. I'm going to take a shot. Cornerback as a rookie player is not one of them. Like, if you're Jalen Ramsey and kind of want to go off script, go ahead, do your thing. You know, you're Jalen Ramsey. You've earned the right to go do it. Even going back a few years with Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib and these guys that have been around the league for as long as they have, going way back like Trumaine Johnson and these guys. Okay, cool. Go do your thing. You've earned the right. When you're new in this league, you got to do what you're expected to do. You got to go where you're expected to be because the rest of the defense is expecting you to be there. And he wasn't. He was just all over the place. He, like you mentioned, the penalty. I thought you can't grab a guy in the middle of the open field like that in the NFL. It's just they're going to get it every single time. And you know what Sean McVay, I think, really is looking for. I think it's why you saw Darrell Henderson come back. I think it's why we've seen him do the things that he's done in some other places. Can I trust you to just do what we're asking you to do? I don't need you to be an all-pro overnight, but I do need you to be where I need you to be. And I think we got an answer to that. And I think we got an answer to why he has not played very much this season. Hopefully he'll learn. Hopefully he'll improve. They'll go back, they'll watch the film to steal a line from Sean McVay. But the answer was pretty clear why number 6 has not had a lot of time during the regular season.
Yeah, look, this is a Rams team that's not going to blow out many teams, so you're not going to be able to work guys and get the valuable experience that they need. And look, it's not going to be because of lack of effort or tenacity. He's got that dog in him, that Kirkland $1.50 dog. Got Costco. I mean, he's got that dog in him, right?
And don't forget, hold on. You just said $1.50 dog, which is kind of right, but not completely. You also get a drink, D-Mac. Right, you get a drink for that $1.50 too. So it's a great quarter-pound dog and a drink for $1.50.
Yeah,
so he's got.
And you just have to spend $400 on food because you probably did that already, right? So that's such a great deal. For me, I'd rather just go in and fill up on samples. I mean, that's just kind of, it's more cost effective. That $1.50, it's
do you do the thing that I do when you go up to get a, like, I don't know, like smoked salmon? It's like, okay, that's really good. And you're like, so where is that again? It's aisle again. And then you just walk the other direction and go get a piece of pizza. Like that. I pretend that I'm going to buy all the samples, even though I have very little intent of ever buying any of the samples.
So what I do is I go up there. I'm like, okay, can I go on for my wife and my mom and my cousins and my brothers are here, and I get a bunch. They're really interested too. They all have cars. That's what I try. I try to pull. I'm getting one for someone else, and then go around the corner and then I just eat them all. So that's kind of my strategy. But I'm gonna have to use yours for sure. But that's gonna do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA, and of course the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on the X at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house is Locked On Rams house?